During the off-peak hours, pumps pump the electricity from the lower lake to the upper one. And during peak times, when they need the electricity, they open the penstocks and that water flows down through the generators and generates electricity. That's a pretty costly way to do it. And if electricity generated during non-peak times could be stored in these car batteries, that would be far more efficient and effective. So that is coming. That enables electric utilities to balance their load and achieve economic benefit. And utilities would be able to see the early signs of system failures. If they see a system that is weakening, rather than wait until it burns out, which is what often happens today, because of the internal intelligence that this network would feed back to the utility's central office, they would be able to see failures as they're developing and be able to act proactively in order to prevent system outages and power blackouts. And that would be an enormous benefit as well. So that's coming. And I'm going to make just one other prediction, and that is that America will lead the world in the development of low carbon dioxide emitting technologies, renewables, and the information technology that is behind the smart grid. We're going to be leading the world in the development of all of these technologies. They will be deployed here in the United States, and they will be exported around the world. And if you listen to the people who are real energy futurists, they will tell you that energy technology is the next economic boom that we're going to have in this country. As these technologies are researched, developed, manufactured, deployed here, and then exported all across the globe. This will create millions of jobs. It clearly will be the next technology revolution. It will revive our economy, and it will provide for long-term economic growth here in the United States. So when people ask me if the control legislation that we're drafting now, the CO2 controls, will have a net economic penalty for this country, my answer is no. As a matter of fact, viewed over the medium to long term, this control measure is going to create an economic benefit for this country like nothing that we've seen in a very long time. Well, I want to extend best wishes for your conference. Thanks for having me here today. Please invite me back for your third one. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tyler Thompson, and I'm a senior here at the University of Virginia's College of Law, majoring in economics. I'm here this morning to introduce to some and present to others Mr. Larry Austin. Mr. Austin is a merchant banker and a former Wall Street lawyer. He's also an 1880s graduate of Harvard Law School, and he's helped found and restructure companies in high-tech corridors around New York City, Asia, and also MIT. He has developed or been among the early implementers of new financial products, transnational acquisitions and asset transfers, credit enhancement, and non-traditional sales leaseback techniques. As principal or advisor to select venture capital companies and allied organizations, he has also worked on economic development and technology infrastructure projects from Samoa, South Korea, China to West Virginia. He has been principal CEO or advisor in teams that acquired 200 businesses involving $10 billion in finances. He was the first mover in several Asian markets, including the team completing the first ever to be with Chinese government-sponsored enterprise asset management companies, narrowly beating out the 3 largest investment banks in the world, followed by completing more deals than any other foreign participants in the market over the next 5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Larry Austin.
We have some technical work that has to be done by my fusion scientists. I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate the opportunity to address today's gathering. As I said to several of the people who invited me here, I am here to speak on behalf of a man named Ed McCullough who did not make it here, but there are probably a half dozen of the topics in your agenda that are very near and dear to my heart. For approximately 38 years, I have been involved one way or another in alternative energy projects. Our group put together the 4,000 windmills that went into 6 of the early wind parks in California from 1982 to 1986. And within the last 6 months, I'm probably the only man in this room who has toured all of the leading Chinese windmill makers, all of the Korean windmill makers, and all of the English windmill blade design specialists. I've also done advanced materials research with the MIT scientists who work in this field, and worked with a number of solar cell developers from Germany to California to the Navajo Indian Plains in the southwest of this American desert we call the Great Southwest. I have, for a number of years, been addressing a good part of the NASA science community. And I will tell you, I had the dream of going to the moon myself. And it's kind of ironic to me that as one of the people who grew up wanting to set foot on the moon, believing in Mars mission, believing in orbiting Earth as something that humankind had to do for manufacturing, for entertainment, for science research, it was painful for me to be put in the position by NASA of having to go throw cold water onto all of the moon beams. My job was to come in as the businessman and say, my 180 companies worth of acquisitions, my $10 billion worth of financing tell me, if you can't make money for me with your harebrained idea within the next 12 months, I don't want to hear it. Get out of the room. And that was a very difficult thing, but it yielded the result that we wanted, which was the scientists began to focus. What it eventually produced was a way to cause the scientists, who are brilliant, brilliant men, to focus on what it takes to get practical right now. And I wanted to thank Congressman Belcher for his introduction. 2 of the problems that he identified are sincere, serious, handicapping problems, but I think we have solutions in hand today that could be implemented this year. Remember my motto, if it can't work in the next 12 months, get out of the room. This man shown on the screen here, Ed McCullough, has produced, I think, 2 fascinating breakthroughs that resonate from the moon and Mars down to the coal fly ash waste ponds in Southern Virginia. He was originally a man who worked as a mining engineer for Bechtel after having been a nuclear engineer in Hyman Rickover's Navy, the nuclear Navy. He found his appetite for aerospace and interlunar exploration projects to be enormous. And he worked his way from Bechtel to Rocketdyne to Boeing. All told, he spent almost 30 years in one form or another working on NASA-related projects or aerospace-related projects. The man was intimately involved in several of the projects that led to robotic missions, the attempts to produce cometary impacts, to study comets, to study the lunar soil called lunar regolith, and in many ways has spent many of his nights and days dreaming of setting foot on that place, just as I did, just as many of you did. We managed to get there, and then the question